Hello and welcome to the AOSC Super Series live on Apex Racing TV and live on the iRacing Esports Network. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick and alongside me is Daniel Leet and Matthew Norris with Scott Newton operating the cameras and the production today. And we are here at Okayama for round 4 of season 9. And Daniel, it's been a pretty dominant season so far for James Scott. A couple of race victories for him already this season, and we go into this first 150-kilometer race with him quite comfortably in the lead of the championship. Let's see if he can make it 3 out of 3 tonight.
Yeah, good evening, Sam, to all of you who's tuning in. Great to have you back for round 9. Yeah, James has picked up exactly where he left off at the end of season 8. He's already brought it through the first couple of rounds so far of the championship, taking, as you say, a very solid lead out front, finding himself in already a good position through the initial part of qualifying, currently sitting second just behind Adam Briggs at the moment. So all things looking very good for for Altus at the moment, sorry.
Absolutely, and Nori, this circuit, I always say we don't visit this place enough. I will give it credit. We have visited this place plenty on Apex Racing TV in the past couple of weeks, but it's a very underrated circuit. It's a circuit that pretty much everyone knows on iRacing. It's one of the 3 circuits you've got to race around here in the MX5 in order to move up through the other classes, and it should work quite well for these V8 supercars. It won't be easy to overtake, but it should be a nice mix.
Absolutely. G'day Sam, g'day Daniel, g'day everyone. It's fantastic to be visiting Okayama. It's a bit like Queensland Raceway, but they thought, let's add some extension, let's add some elevation. It's a cool track, and like you say, we all start there at the MX5. We all do the little short club circuit, but we get to do the full circuit tonight. We get to see the V8 rumbling down that big back straight, or tight back straight because it's a small circuit, but it's fun no less.
Definitely. Big thanks to all the sponsors for this championship. These are the guys who make it possible. Okayama providing safety, height and rigging equipment, and one of the major partners of the series. Jinx Shifters, who make Aussie-made premium shifters for brake bias and ARB adjustments. Really are fantastic to have in your sim cockpit if you possibly can. Also, we'll be giving a shift away for driver of the series as well. Race Circuit Art Australia, Aussie-made high-quality CNC race circuits, who will be some of the trophies. I didn't realise they'll be providing the trophies for this season. So some very lucky championship winners this season to get their hands on some fantastic high-quality circuits like that. 6th Gear Imagery, who are doing the action shots for each round of AOSC. You can check them out on the AOSC Facebook page and any other social media that AOSC have. Wolf Graphics, who make Aussie-made stickers, and also West End Master, Too Easy Finance, and Parameter Isuzu Ute, Sydney car deals led by Principal Jamie McKnight. Big thanks to him for getting those companies involved as well. Certainly do check out all those sponsors, and thanks to them for their continued support for this championship. We are currently in practice, 20-minute practice this, and we're about 15 minutes in as well. There is the championship standings. James Scott with a lead. Adam Briggs, though, currently doing very well in this qualifying session. It's been pretty remarkable, Daniel. It's tricky to break in to that kind of elite class. So, I mean, Harley Haver, James Scott, Andrew Gilliam, and a few others, real high-quality drivers. Jordan Ross comes to mind as well. And it seems like Briggs, after being a little bit behind those drivers last season, he's been able to break into it this season. He's turning himself into a proper championship challenger and a race win challenger as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw, as you say, over the course of last season, and we've seen it in quite a few championships as well, the whole DPR team has really lifted and they've really started to come to the forefront in Australian supercar racing in particular. Briggs, obviously, at the forefront of that and doing a very solid job, not that far behind current championship leader James Scott. And as we're seeing through the guys in qualifying at the moment that they're setting, Briggs still finding himself up towards the pointy end of the field as well. So DPR have really come on strong. They found something in the car that seems to be working exceptionally well for them. and they're going to go ahead. Also, keep an eye on Phil Worley there as well, just sitting in third, another one of the DPR stablemates. So those guys are really at a prime position now to start eating away at this championship lead that James Scott finds himself with.
Absolutely. It will be an interesting tyre strategy, I think, today. This circuit does eat up the tyres quite a bit. Lots of traction zones, which we know is ever so difficult on the supercars. If anyone hasn't driven these cars in the past, jump into a test station, just try to get the car out of some of these corners. The power in these machines is really very tricky to control. And with this relatively hot track temperature, with the Japanese soil, the famous Japanese soil, it's going to be tricky to do this race on the one stop. The undercut will be very powerful, but obviously if you go for that, then you're going to be at a sitting duck at the end. So a few extra elements for the drivers to think about today.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to need to maximise their tyre life and definitely make sure they've got the fuel calc done if they do go for that undercut. But it's going to be a hard fought race, no matter who wins or who comes out on top, because the strategy involved in the circuit, and being a compact circuit, it's not one of the shortest ones we've been to, but it is pretty short, and having that undercut where you can possibly snip the drivers behind you or ahead of you, they're going to have to be on their toes.
Definitely. You can see the traffic at the moment for these drivers. James Scott having to be on his toes at the moment, just trying to find a pocket of air, but this does seem to have been a pretty clean lap. Personal best sector 1, decent sector 2, maybe about a tenth of a second slower in sector 2, but sector 2 pretty good as well. You can have a good sector 4 spot, you might have a chance at challenging the top 2 positions, which you can see at the moment are separated by just 1,000th of a second. I believe Logitech have got both pole positions so far this season. Not 100% sure at Silverstone, but they certainly were up at the front. Scott only with a 30.6, so it was a very poor final sector. Still got time, we should have a couple more laps, and the track should be getting a little bit, potentially a bit quicker as well. The weather absolutely fixed, so no change in the track temperature, I believe, during this session, but the track just rubbering in. And the best tyres might yet to be coming in. A couple of other drivers. Reece Keane approaching the line, currently in 18th place, only half a second off pole position. And we say this every single time, Dan. It is pretty obvious, very high quality field in this championship. But yeah, half a second between the top 20. That is that's unusually close, especially around a circuit with a 90-second lap time.
Yeah, it's a really tight field. I think, from what we've seen in the Australian community, they've really stepped up with getting all the setups in, regardless of what team you're in. The pace and consistency for all of these guys, as we see King just aborting that lap, has really got there. The setups are almost identical, and the drivers are maximising every tenth to get the most out of it, hence why we're seeing the qualifying times as they are. And don't forget, all these guys here are the best at what they do in these supercars, and it just goes to show with how tight and tricky the qualifying is right now for them.
Corey Shepherd moving up into third position just a moment ago, second row of the grid at the moment for the Premier Racing Team. Drive Premier Racing Team, another team a bit like DPR, really upping their game going into this championship. So James Scott currently in fourth place, and it's not going to get any higher for him than that, as he's back into the pits, looking very good at the moment for Jordan Ross to take this pole position. But Brady Myers still out on track at the moment, and in fact, Myers actually on an outlap. He won't reach the line though, because the checkered flag is out, and the drivers can just complete the lap times that they are on. And we'll try to eke those extra couple of tenths of a second out of these drivers. But I mean, this is an important qualifier for these drivers, and James Scott down in fourth place. That's not like James in the second half of the season. He was, or second half of season 8, he was so strong in qualifying. Maybe that was his one weakness in the first half, where he could get beaten in qualifying. He's been imperious in qualifying ever since, but today, down in fourth place, a little bit unusual.
Yeah, absolutely. Seeing James Scott not on the front row is going to be something quite challenging to see, but it appears it's going to happen. These cars crossing the line now, all trying to get that time in. Like you were saying before, it is just a congested field. Like they're all within a second of each other. It's impressive to see the quality of this field.
Barely anything separating now. Hopefully we'll have some long trains that's going to be tricky to overtake. So if you can nail this this qualifying, if we have anyone out of position for the race start, we could see some very tight pack racing. Vidra is still out on circuit. I believe no one's got an eligible lap, and I think all these drivers crossed the line too late. Carl Stokes in 21st place. You'll be a little bit disappointed with that one, Stokes, but that's only 0.6 of a second off pole position. And Brady Miles, we did see him not make the checker flag. So that does seem to be pretty much the starting order for this round 3 of the championship, and we'll very soon be able to go through your through your grid. So decent run down to turn 1 at this circuit, Daniel, and because we will have the safety car in case there's any incidents. Just looking from the blimp view, it's pretty close to the walls between turns 1 and 2. Hopefully we don't see any pile-ups down there.
Yeah, definitely. It's always going to be tricky. The guys will want to all funnel down there. We're probably going to see a bit of 2 and 3 wide action. And being the way the track flows, there's every chance we're likely to see a safety car. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen. In the event we do get it, though, Race Control earlier today did release some stats on where they're going to be allowing the drivers to get back underway. So look for them in between Hobbs and Mike Knight corner, so between the third last and second last corner to get underway. We can get a little bit of overlap out of that final corner. So it's going to be interesting to see in the event we do get those safety cars where these guys decide to get the restart underway from.
Yeah, it'll be under the leader's control, but yeah, do have to accelerate in that range. It'll be Jordan Ross then from the pole position for TNG Sim Racing, 1/1000th of a second ahead of Adam Biggs. Oh, you couldn't write it. Corey Shepherd lines up in third. Then it's championship leader James Scott. Tom Freer, qualifying for Freer in fifth. Brady Myers, who was very strong at Alton Park, starts in sixth. Then it's Philip Worley, Marlon McMullen. Good qualifying actually for McMullen in eighth. Kenneth Latzer in ninth, and Andrew Dyson rounding out the top 10. Then it's Carl Stokes, Brett Loxton, Sean Lindsell, Neil Pearson, Geordie Sinney, Daniel Misdale, Aaron Dodd, Jacob Knight, Reese Keane, Rob Bowden, Jane McKnight, Clint Shane Smith. Great to see him back in the championship. Stephen Varga, Marty Hansen, Matthew Deere, Cameron Veacock, Greg Sharp, Wayne Taylor, Blake Delaney, Jamie Dyke, Jamie Stovall, Cameron Jones, Rob Harris, Ashley Ruskin, Shay Thompson, Paul Lee, Jaden Borg, Paul Warwick, David Kimmond, Sean Chappell, Michael Whiting, Chris Barnes, Josh Morgan, and Stacey Walker. I think that will be all 44 drivers on the grid for this race, plus a couple of admins as well, who hopefully will not be gridding up this race. In fact, hopefully we don't even see them. Hopefully this is a nice clean race. But the safety cars are on standby in case we have any issues. Almost all the drivers are on the grid. In fact, all the drivers are on the grid, and the lights will very soon illuminate this Okayama circuit for round 3 of season 9 of the AOSC Super Series. It's Ross from pole, Briggs alongside, and 150 kilometers of racing gets underway. It's an awful start for the pole sit, and he's going to drop down to 5th or maybe even 6th place. It's Briggs who leads into turn 1. Scott with a very good start up into 2nd place, and a quick start as well for Brady Miles, up 3 places from 6th on the grid. However, he's still side by side, should have the better line against Shepherd. Has there been contact between the two of them? No, it's just Shepherd managing to come back. That's fantastic retaliation from the driver who started in that 3rd position. Back comes Myers down the inside into the right hand. It's not going to quite work out for him as they get a face line, and the race leaders now for the circuit. Well, James Scott takes the lead, 4th on the grid, and somehow you never doubted he was going to get into the lead at some point off the circuit as well. At the moment is Jordan Ross, who's had an awful start, dropping down a few places on the run to turn 1, and he's going to drop a few more places now as he almost goes 3 wide into the hairpin. It's Scott leading, and it's Myers, his own teammate, in 2nd place. Remarkable start for Logitech G Out of Sports. They started in 4th and 6th places, and yet within half a lap they are the leading two.
Yeah, really good getaway from everyone there. We didn't see too much carnage. Looking at some of the guys working their way through the mid corner, we saw 3 of the DPR cars, a little bit of nose to tail, but everyone else starting to now settle down. And this is the hard part, as the train starts to stretch out, and we're already starting to see the likes of Scott building that little bit of an advantage, it's going to be tricky for these guys to look at these passing opportunities. The Altus cars, they're in the prime spot now, 1 and 2 respectively, and you're going to see them really start to hold up this field. But keep an eye on Shepherd and McMullen, not that far behind.
A little bit of under investigation. The stewards getting some investigating going already between car 233 and 554. I'm sure they will keep us up to date on that front. But what a Lindsay involved in that one. What a strange start was for Ross, and Briggs as well down into 9th and 10th. I mean, nor is that just a case of inexperience for Briggs? You know, he's got the lead. He hasn't even had to work for the lead. And then he just outbreaks himself into one of the first few corners of this race. Maybe that's just inexperience at the front of the field.
It could just be nerves. It could just be pressure. You never really know. And it could just be these cars on cold tyres. They are weapons, and they're the wrong kind of weapons when you've got cold tyres. They don't want to grip. They don't want to do anything. So you've got to treat it carefully. And just stepping outside your mark or braking just that little bit later can send you off the track. So it's not unheard of, but it will be hugely disappointing for Briggsy.
What a strange situation this is. The top two on the grid fighting right now for 9th and 10th places. I think that may have been Briggs just overtaking Ross. I'm not sure. They are very close to one another. You can see everyone very close behind Corey Shepherd at the moment, running in that top 3 position. We are expecting a pit stop during this race. Around lap 12 will be the earliest you could come in, although you will be leaving yourself very vulnerable at the end of the race. Probably won't be pitting in on lap 18 or 19. Scott with the fastest lap of the race is beaten by Myers. He still leads by 1.4 seconds after a couple of laps of this Okayama circuit.
It's interesting to see a lot of the cars now with the train starting to form up the way they are. The lap pace is not quite there to what we saw in qualifying. Most of these guys running pretty respectable 1:30 at the moment, but that'll come up as we see a little bit of gaps starting to form. McKnight's got himself in a little bit of clear air. He's got Jacob Knight in front, Matt Deere right behind, and Deere's going to have to be careful. He's got Greg Sharp starting to close in, and bringing along Stephen Varga as well, as those guys start to shape up for 18th position.
One of the big gainers so far, Shane Thompson in 25th place, up 10 places. So David Kimmond up 9, and so Jalen Borg up 8. Really is a great opportunity to overtake in these in that hairpin for these V8 supercars. Defending this is a tight space circuit, not easy to overtake, but these cars have as good a chance as any, because the braking areas into that hairpin are going to be so large. You should be able to go for a nice dive on your opponent, and into this one as well. Another big heavy braking area, but they're just staying in line at the moment. But even though you want to look ahead, you've got to keep an eye on your mirrors as well. There's a little bit of a tap there for Thompson, just trying to gain that extra place, maybe even getting hit by Beacock on that occasion. We're seeing Loxton and Briggs ever so close. I think in fact Briggs might be able to overtake as we just go for a replay for that move between the couple of Fishy Motorsports drivers.
A little bit of a team penalty there, so that was Josh Morgan who we saw getting the penalty for the drive-through, and there's the results of the contact between himself and one of the Mark 1 cars there.
That's Lindsay getting involved in that one, and Lindsay not best pleased, almost ramming his opponents away. Very slow motion, clumsy incident right there between those drivers. Was there a move in the end from Briggs and Ross? I don't think there were any changes in the top 10. 747 Penrite Racing car, a little bit under pressure right now from Stephen Varga, as we do have a drive-through penalty for the car 050 for an incident on the opening lap, and that will be for Paul Rourke down in 35th place.
Greg's got himself a really solid battle here. Steve Varga's still closing up, and we were talking to them guys about a lap and a half ago, where that train's just really tricky for these two to get through. They're working their way up through Hobbs Corner, so the third to last corner of the circuit. One of the hardest spots too, when you come out of that slow hairpin, the road sort of drifts away from you. You can't really get the power down as much as you'd like, and it does compromise you a little bit for this final run down onto the front straight here.
Jan McKnight just flashing the lights heading down into the appropriately named first corner.
they're not very creative with them. I think we got final corner as well.
Last corner.
Around this last corner. There you go. Same with Suzuka. Actually, got first corner as well around there, which yeah, a little bit uninspiring. But there you go. You've got some pretty good other corners too around this. You've got Moss and a few other nice names. McKnight's just starting to spread away now. This field, there's a few more gaps starting to appear, but it's still a train of cars right now. They are still being held up by one another. Just one defensive move and potentially double the size of the train. Adam Briggs, he's started to recoup his pace after that off on the opening lap. He's got Tom Freer, who actually had a poor start himself here. I think dropped a couple of places. And this move looking very possible for him at the moment. But around this part of the circuit, going to be very tricky. Just got to try to stay as close as possible for these final couple of corners. Do you get a little bit of air wake in these supercars? But you can still stay close. But of course, the driver ahead always getting on the car slightly earlier. Now the slipstream will start to kick in for the car number 72. Is there any way into turn 1? On this occasion, he has to stay behind. And now, look at this. Jordan Ross easily catching up to them. And Briggs as well make this move quick. Otherwise, he could be overtaken by the pole sitter.
Yeah, the last thing you're going to want to do is sit behind these guys too long. It makes it a lot easier for the car in front just to start boxing you in and making it a little bit harder here. Briggs, good opportunity down to the hairpin. Not quite going to do it. If you can get a solid run down through the back straight here, getting looking up the hairpin, to see him sneak the nose through, he's going to have a good shot here for a crack.
Pops the nose out, but doesn't actually make any ground off it. Just letting Tom know that he is there and he is ready to pounce, given the opportunity. So Briggs is definitely wanting to get back to the front where he belongs, where he started this race. Definitely wanting to push that way. This is the best thing about having the congested pack, though, is they'll be wanting to find a piece of clean real estate. So if they are getting caught in this snake, if it were, the best idea is to find yourself a strategy a couple of laps deep, 40 laps of the race, and you want to, undercut and try and get yourself a clean piece of real estate.
Yeah, certainly the way to go. It's not the longest pit lane in the world, this. If they did pit now, it would be decently far behind the back. I mean, everyone's so competitive. You can see first to 40. There's a decent field spread, but you can see there's no gaps between the drivers. There's probably only about 2 seconds difference between the fastest guys per lap and the slowest guys. And that's probably a little bit closer. So you could probably come into the pits quite early and get some fresh air, as you say, Noe. Pit stops will probably start in about 5 laps time. I don't think anyone's going to go for the 2-stopper. You'd have to make a lot of overtakes in the closing stages if you're going to make that strategy work. But this is going to be one of the higher tyre consumption circuits during the season. Stephen Varga currently on the tail of Greg Sharp. And we've also had Adam Briggs actually just overtaking Tom Freer. He's up a place. There goes Varga. I don't think he wants to go for the move. Almost has to lock the rears in order to slow that car down. But yeah, Adam Briggs starts it in second place. He's just got past Tom Freer of Pursuit Sim Racing. He's up into 7th place.
Yeah, Greg Sharp's going to have to be a little bit careful there. He's leaving the door just wide enough for Varga to try and stick the nose in, and just coming across late in the corner there. And if he's not too careful there, potentially going to see that car get rotated. But for Varga at the moment, it's a really nice drive, keeping the car nice and straight, trying to drive it off those corners. That'll help save the tyres. Might actually play into a little bit better strategy for him running through later on into the race. Have to keep an eye on that and see. The gap with our 2 leaders still floating about 0.7 of a second there. Scott ahead of Myers. Actually, Myers has closed it up just a fraction. It was out to just over a second. So these two starting to work together quite nicely. They've dropped Shepherd off just a little bit further, and McMullen not that far behind now.
It's clear that Altus don't have nearly the pace advantage they had at Alton Park. They were absolutely imperious, but from my experience in the Supercars, if you can nail the setup round Alton Park, you can have an advantage. And of course, it was very tricky to overtake. This tricky to overtake, but much more possible than what we visited last time. So it does give hope that a few other guys could have an opportunity at the race win. Currently the top 10 only separated by 8 seconds, and this lap 8 of the race. Brett Loxton running in 10th place for Zuba Racing. Looks like Tom Freer is just falling backwards at the moment. He's already been overtaken by Carl Stokes, who, apologies, Adam Briggs, who also got past Carl Stokes on that last lap. Almost a sneak attack there from Jordan Ross, trying to overtake Tom Freer as well. After good qualifying for Freer, it's odd to see him drop back. Usually he's stronger in the races than he is in qualifying, as are all the Pursuit Sim Racing drivers, really. But he's just struggling to keep behind the pole sitter at the moment. This was how Briggs managed to get past Carl Stokes, and he pretty much got past Freer and then was immediately onto the 888 and a simple move down the inside into turn 1.
Yeah, not a lot of defence offered up there by Stokes. Just open the door, let him through, and now we'll sit him behind to try and save those tyres. Really surprised to see Jordan Ross, who we saw in the opening lap, actually gets escorted wide onto the grass, struggling as much as he is to get that move done on Tom Freer. But for the guys that have cleared, now working quite nicely. A couple of DPR cars in Daniel Misdale and Rob Keane working their way around the circuit. The boys currently down in 14th and 15th respectively. Already up quite a few spots from where they both started. Having quite a good solid run here as we see the teammates now just look to change positions.
Nice and clean move between the DPR teammates. They want to work together and not make it hard on themselves as they try and push further forward, dropping the tank SRT car off road and just a little bit further behind them. So I'll be wanting to move forward and catch up to the back of Geordie Simi, not Aaron Dodd.
Yeah, they were losing quite a bit of time previously. It seems they're lapping in the mid to late 30s. The leaders in the early to mid 30s themselves, so only losing about 4/10 a lap to the race leaders at the moment. There you can see 30.2 for the couple of leaders. Strong lap time there for Logitech G out of C Sports. Briggs though with a 30.1. And you wonder what Ross as well could do if he was in clear air as well. Currently running in 9th place, overtaking out a premium at the moment. And you could go for a pit stop right now, but we would certainly advise against it. But it would get you a significant pace advantage right now. We'd be able to leapfrog quite a number of cars. We're currently watching Rob Harris carry off the driver's seat, 0.6 of a second behind Cameron Beacock, driver tier, one of the few drivers who are still running where they started this race, and no further action between 547 and 137 for that lap 8 incident. One of them was, I'm not even sure who that was, but yeah, no further action deemed by the stewards there. That was actually Ruskin and Paul Leo.
Yeah, noticing Rob Harris just on that last lap, just struggling a little bit to get the tyre traction down, so that could potentially hurt him. Here's a good battle though. Neil Pearson, and Brett Lott or Geordie Sini closing in on each other here, the 440 and 052. Good run up through the second to last corner into final corner now, and Geordie not quite able to move that car in. Well, Jordan Ross, first of our stoppers tonight as well in the lane for Synergy Sim Racing.
That is incredibly. It's lap 10. He's going to have to do 30 laps. He's going to have to go 3 times longer. Is that a possibility of a 2-stop? No. Do you think that would be feasible for Ross to go for a 2-stop here and try to really beat these guys alternatively, or is this just a mega undercut?
No, I think it's an undercut. He needs to get out of the pack and get some clean air. We saw him battling a bit to get around Tom Freer, so he's definitely wanting to get that gap that I mentioned before. Happy to see if it pays off for him, because it's a bold strategy. Not sure how it will play out for him if he doesn't get the right spot on track.
Yeah, put Neil Pearson in a furious battle at the moment with Geordie Sini. He's come back down his inside. You can run side by side through a few of these corners. Does leave room for his rival, at least room on the curb for his rival, and the battle's still not over, because if you can get the inside for the hairpin and you're in for good chances of losing them a lot of time at the moment. As 062 just tried to stay around the outside. 3 has gone off the circuit, and that's a long way off the circuit. You can only imagine he's either dipped a wheel onto the grass, which we did see Mike Horder do in the Apex Racing League GT Championship just a couple of weeks ago, or he's been given contact. Well, he's already had a slide there, and then he's got Loxton behind him, and he's just been kind of quarter paneled there. Loxton not quite aware of his surroundings, and strange issue for Free, and a shame for him after running in the top 10.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing there, although for Loxton on the outside, didn't really have a lot there to do. It looked like we saw Freya there with a little bit of a wiggle as he turned that car in, tried to catch it up, and just with the vicinity that Loxton was in there, just unable to get that car turned around. It looks like he also did cop a little bit of additional side-by-side from one of, it might have been one of the KRF cars as well out there, just a little bit of in the front corner as well. So we'll see whether that does impact him or not. See a good little scrap now with McKnight and Jacob Knight having a run down here into the hairpin, and McKnight should get this one done down the inside. It's a nice solid move there.
This is when you know you've got a good, solid quality battle pack, is when they can all give each other a bit of racing room like they've just done. Everyone sort of gets away with it, and they keep fighting off the next corner. A little bit of a lock up there from McKnight up ahead, and Jacob Knight sort of looking for a way past. McKnight leading them through McKnight corner.
By the way, Griggs has got past Latta. Haven't mentioned Latta, by the way, but Kent is doing really well for EXG Motorsports. But yeah, Griggs making some brilliant moves at the moment, up into 5th place. Oh, that's very deep from Dia. And yeah, that could have been a whole lot worse right there. Very much, yeah, driving it in deep into that turn 1. See if McKnight can start to pull away from these drivers now. For United, Sim Sports is up 7th place. Like always, driving struggles in qualifying, but one of the cleanest drivers out on circuit was one of the highest runners in the Clean Driver Award last season. Led for most of the season, but I think just got picked maybe at the last round in Bathurst, so he picks up very few incidents and is usually stronger in the races than in qualifying. Now can start to pull away from Knight, who is staying very close to him all the while. This battle will go all the back to Shay Thompson in 23rd position. And look at the close quarters racing as well from the drivers ahead of Pearson down to Reece Key. This is what we were talking about right from the off. If you're slightly improved in qualifying compared to the race, you can hold on to your position for a while. And that seemingly is what Pearson is doing at the moment, staying ahead of Cini for all that he's worth. There's a big gap now of 4 seconds up to Loxton, very much a divide. As here comes the 440 car down the inside into turn 1, not much defence put up by Pearson. And that was easy for Cini. Didn't defend that one a whole lot, Pearson. He might regret that one because now he's got Aaron Dodd right on his tail behind.
Yeah, very easy move there for Cini to get through Dodd. Coming hard though, and looking to get a move done. Keep an eye on Misdale just behind this little group as well. He could potentially pick up a couple of scraps if these two get involved, isn't it? And lucky not to have the contact there between Keane and Dodd. Dodd just gets shuffled a little wide. Keane gets the run, but it's going to lose a little bit of track position to see those two bouncing off each other as well.
Having his overtake covered off there from Dodd. Very much within pit window now, but probably wouldn't be a whole lot of an advantage for these guys to come to the pits. They'd maybe gain a handful of places on track position, but I think it's when you're at the back of a real long pack that it might really be worth coming into the pits. Here is Ruskin and Barnes battling. Now Smith and Chappell right on their tail. Near the front, by the way, Scott and Meyer still controlling the pack, but Briggs is the fastest driver out on circuit. He's consistently lapping a couple of tenths of a second a lap faster than the race leaders, and the gap between him and the race leaders is 5 seconds at the moment. If Briggs came into the pits early, went for the undercut, then that would certainly signal a change for the race leaders. They would have to cover it off, and Corey Shepherd and Marlon McMullen both doing very well themselves. Do we know if McMullen's still part of Premier Racing Team? He was part of Premier last season, but on my screen at least, not listed as a Premier driver. Do we understand if there's any link between them at the moment?
Pretty sure he still is. He's been teaming up with Brian Borg in most of the Enduros, so I'd say they're still together. But yeah, that top 4 is locked in a massive battle pack. All the top 4 drivers have been lapping in the 129s, or have done a lap in the 129s, so they're all pretty quick up the front there.
I've also just been keeping an eye too on Jordan Ross, who was the first of our drivers to come through the lane. He filtered back out in 39th, currently finds himself in 35th position. So still got a little bit of work to do. He's got Sean Chappell just ahead. There have been a couple of other drivers also dropped through as well. Stephen Varga came through for a stop. Stacey Walker from Reaper Sim Racing is in the lane, but he's been stationary for quite a while there, so a little bit of damage potentially on that car as well. But the tyres on Jordan Ross's Synergy Mobile at the moment seem to be working quite good for him. Although you see him now, it closes up on the back of this little train, which we're looking at not too far, and that comprises of Rushkin, Clint Shane Smith, and Sean Chappell just ahead.
Clint Shane Smith in the lane, or pulling into the lane. So this is going to start to work out for Ross here, because these guys are all going to start to peel off. We might even see the leaders of the race start to think about pitting soon, but this is when it's going to come to strategy game time for Jordan Ross.
Nice work there from Scott Needson to compare Ross's lap times to the race leader. At the moment, he hasn't done enough to make much of a impact. But he might be ahead of Latzer now. He might be up into 6th, Ross, but will be very under pressure in the closing stage. Certainly a 2-stop is no possibility. The drop off in the tyres isn't large enough, and he has just been scuppered slightly. There is the time difference. You can see when he gets a clean lap, then he's much faster. He's in the 29s as Ross, but just a bit too much traffic at the moment for him to have to work through. He was about 4 seconds behind Latzer before the pit stop, so he should be clear. But yeah, like I say, he'll be on old tyres. Stokes into the pits from P8. Now this could be close actually between Stokes and Ross. It will give us a good indication of how much Ross has been able to benefit from that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that stationary time in the lane, or total transit time, is about 50 seconds for these drivers coming through as we see a big gaggle of cars work their way through. So we'll keep an eye on that. But Blake Delaney up on screen at the moment. He's got Marty Hansen and Jamie Stovall just ahead of him. So these guys are scrapping now over 15th, 16th and 17th positions respectively. Just behind them you can see Shay Thompson getting up to the back of this little group as well. So this will turn into a nice little 4-car battle. We'll be in the next few corners as they work their way down towards the back straight, and the fight with McKnight and Jacob Knight still continuing on between United Simsports and EXG Motorsport. Knight thinks a little bit better of it. McKnight very defensive, trying to retain that 13th spot.
Don't see this battle much, McKnight versus Knight. Always confuses me when I see their names, and they have got quite similar liveries as well, despite not being part of the same team. But yeah, they are now very, and very similar numbers as well. 024 versus 027 at the moment. McMullen and Latzer into the pits. McMullen was in 4th place. I'm surprised that McMullen's gone for this one and not Shepherd. If they are teammates, that seems like a little bit of a strange decision to pit the driver who was behind, because Shepherd's going to have a much better chance at undercutting the guys ahead. You can see him just in the back there in 3rd place. But they've got to be careful, because they know that if Shepherd comes into the pits, then Scott and Myers will come into the pits the very next lap. But at what point will they decide to cover off McMullen as well? Where does McMullen come out on track as well? How much traffic does he come into is going to be an important element of that. That's a very good part of the track. Look at that, he's managed to find 3.7 seconds. Don't know how much of that was judgment and how much of that was luck. There's not a whole lot of pockets of air on circuit, but McMullen's found one of them, and now he's put in a very strong lap time in order to try to close the gap to the leaders.
Yeah, he timed that really, really well. He's got Michael Whiting, Chris Barn, Jordan Ross, who we were just talking about before, coming in earlier for his stop. So picked a really good spot to come through the lane there. He's got a nice bit of track position ahead of him, so he'll be able to get those tyres back up to temp and start pressing on. Wayne Taylor is the next car that he's going to be chasing down 3.8 seconds further up the road. So good run there as Corey Shepherd and Adam Briggs both come in the lane to get their stop completed for the night on lap 19. So good run for those guys.
So Scott and Myers will definitely be in on the next lap. Very strange pit entry we have here. It's a good pit entry, to be fair. It's better than kind of peeling off going into the far corner like you have at the Red Bull Ring, for example. Or Hockenheim, which of course will be coming to iRacing in a few months' time. Very excited about that one. But yeah, you have to just make sure you keep it within the limits, which is easier said than done, especially when there's not a whole lot of rubber down on that part of the circuit, and you're going to be on pretty worn tyres as well. Where did the driver who just came into the pits come out? In fact, McMullen is ahead of Corey Shepherd. He's being able to jump him. McMullen with a shorter pit stop, it seems. He was stationed for 18.5 seconds. Shepherd actually stationed for 20.08, 5 seconds longer than Jordan Ross. So some big changes as the safety car is deployed. And that is brilliant news for James Scott and Brady Myers. They should be able to come into the pits and almost get a free pit stop. And this could be terrible for the drivers who have already pitted. Myers stays out though, and Scott comes into the pits. Why would Myers stay out? Surely you get a free pit stop right here.
Yeah, a little surprised they split that strategy up, because Myers now just picks himself up behind that pace car as well. So that's going to really compromise him when they do come through the lane. Everyone else though, straight in. Scott, Loxton, Seany, Keeney, Knight, all through getting that set of stops completed. This will actually work out really well for the likes of McMullen and Shepherd, who were in just that lap prior. They're going to be able to gain a little bit of an advantage as we see everyone streaming into the lane at the moment.
And let's keep our eye on Jordan Ross. He might stay out and might make up a few positions, unless I've just seen him. No, he's in. So scrap that strategy. It doesn't work.
Probably wise for Ross there, otherwise he would have been on pretty dated tyres. I don't understand this from Brady Myers one bit. This seems like a very ill-thought strategy because everyone behind us has already pitted. And he's going to have to pit is Myers. Scott still leads then, effectively. McMullen in second place, ahead of Corey Shepherd. Then it's Adam Briggs. The only changes in the pit stop sequence was McMullen getting ahead of Shepherd. Besides that, and Myers almost certainly dropping out of contention when he has to make his pit stop later on, because there are the other front runners now just catching up to the back of this. And then it's Latta, Stokes, Loxton, Sinney and Keane. And none of those drivers seemingly losing out particularly big. There hasn't been any major changes, but I think Jordan Ross is a driver who's massively lost out because he's had to make a second pit stop.
It's a bold choice from Brady. Like you say, he does really drop him out of contention, because when he stops, even if he doesn't stop under the safety car, he's still going to fall massively behind his teammate and the top four drivers of Shepherd and McMullen that were around him.
Yeah, I think this is only just not quite thinking this one through, Brady Myers. I really don't understand why you wouldn't pit, unless he feels like he's got enough fuel to get to the end of the race. I don't know, because it is a low fuel consumption circuit, and with the safety car it might be a bit more possible. But I doubt that is the case. Do we know why the safety car came out? Do we understand the incident?
Random.
That was caused? Oh,
And
Myers now
Myers
going to
in.
come into the pits and he's going to drop right to the back now. Random safety face fit.
Random safety car, and I'm just going to stop trying predicting what these drivers are doing, because they're proving me wrong tonight.
This is painful to see for Myers because it was a great start for him, of course.
But
I
Brady
wonder
is quick. He will be back up to this pack in no time. It's just he's now set himself a massive target of trying to overtake nearly the entire field.
Yeah.
And with the quality of the field that we've got here tonight, that's a really big ask to do. I mean, we know Jordan Ross is very capable in these cars, and he kind of struggled a little bit with that early tyre strategy that he took, and as a result, fell down a long way down the order. So those two, for a lot of work for them to do. Nick Heusler, though, doing a great job, must be said, in the Akuta safety car. We didn't see some of the antics we saw at Silverstone, so he's kept it on the grey stuff this time, which is great to see, and doing a solid job there.
I might throw if he did it around here. You went on some tarmac runoff there, but on this space it would be straight into the wall.
I might throw a curveball out there and say we all know that safety cars breed safety cars. That might be Brady's way through.
What do you mean? The entire video wreck themselves and Brady moves through. I don't see how. I mean, I think Einstein would be hard pushed to find a formula that this could work for Brady Myers, frankly.
I think we're going to have fun watching to find out, though.
Yeah, good point. Where's he come back out, actually? Myers in 27th place, down 21 places. In fact, he's with Jordan Ross now. Oh, well, that's nice that those two are with one another. I wonder if we could go back to the race start if we've got a little bit more time under the safety car. Just go back to the race start, maybe have an onboard with Brady Myers and maybe see exactly what happened with Adam Briggs down into turn 3, 4, 5, whatever you're going to call it, on the opening lap, because I saw the back end of it. That's not exactly what occurred, as Scott Newton does very well to find this all for us. You can see the 143 car, Jordan Ross on pole position, had an absolutely awful getaway, and it was this man, Adam Briggs, who he was past him within a couple of feet. He wasn't even under pressure as well from the drivers behind, and yet he made a mistake a couple of laps later, a couple of corners later.
Just box it down, know where to go with that one. And these cars are difficult to start, so it isn't hard that he's done that, but these are not ideal cars to get off the line, that's for sure.
Great start to get underway. Back at racing speed now for all of these guys, so keep an eye on Myers there, still stuck behind Greg Sharp at the moment, so a lot of work to do. But Marlon got a great jump off the restart here, hasn't fallen too far behind Scott Corey Shepherd and Adam Briggs sticking with these guys. Keep an eye on Kyle Stokes there just behind Kenneth Latta. You can see him sticking the nose out in Synergy car, not quite able to get that move completed. Just has to pull it back in line. So thinking of getting those early positional changes done while those tyres are nice and fresh is not a bad idea for them.
Has got one lap older tyres, has Stokes, might have a little bit more heat in them potentially. This is going to be one of your best opportunities to get ahead. By the way, apologies that we missed the restart, but I hope you enjoyed watching the race start once again. Seeing that awful start for Jordan Ross earlier on in the event. Fastest second sector, by the way, for Brett Luxton. Fastest third sector for race leader James Gray. He's got the gap up to 0.7 of a second at the moment. I think his main rival is going to be Adam Briggs, running in fourth place. Briggs was consistently faster than the race leader during the first stint. He seemed to have about 0.2 of a second a lap on him. So if he can clear these couple of drivers ahead of him, which is a lot easier said than done, but we have seen him make overtakes so far, he can get himself up into second place, and then with 16 laps to go, he could perhaps challenge for the race win. You can see out of the four of them, he's the most likely to make a move. He's 0.3 of a second behind Corey Shepherd, who will quite like to fend him off as well for Marlon McMullen. Here comes Briggs. It's going to have to be a big move for him to get past. He hasn't made any kind of banzai moves so far, has Briggs. They've usually been quite safe overtakes. Look at the top two as well, closing in actually down that back straight, seemingly McMullen maybe with a bit more straight line speed down that back straight, or maybe just the slipstream kicking in. No way through for Briggs, as Sinny has got ahead of Stokes. He's up into 7th place. Stokes looks to be the man on the move, just a lap ago, but it's Jordy Sinny who's been able to get ahead actually of his teammate. They are both Synergy Sim Racing up into 7th place, Sinny having one of his best races I can recall.
Yeah, it's a really good run from Sinny here. He's already gained 8 spots since the start of the race, so finds himself now up in that 7th spot with his teammate just behind, playing a little bit of rear gunner against Reese Keane. This is a really good opportunity for him to start getting away. He's got Brett Loxton in the Zuva car right ahead. This will be a really good opportunity for him to get some really solid positions for the championship run. As you see, some solid battling further down. Blake Delaney, Shay Thompson, Cameron Veacock all involved in this. They spread out 4 wide down the opening straight, and no one wanting to give an inch on the run into one.
Insane action, and look at Myers as well, right involved. Myers might even be overtaken here from behind. I think that was Dyke who attempted to go for a move on him. It hasn't quite worked out. Myers will be furious in that car, but at least has got the opportunity to pick off these few drives, and there's Jordan Ross as well. Paul Sitzer made an early pit stop, but came into the pit seemingly maybe he was going for a 2-stop strategy earlier on. It's very difficult to know what he was thinking when he came into the pits on lap 10 of the race. There goes Myers, who almost cut off the braking area there, but he is up into 23rd place, gets past Shay Thompson.
Einstein's still working on that formula.
I wonder how far he can get up the order. He doesn't have a big pace of running. He probably had about half a second on these guys earlier on in the race, but we do know that Myers' racecraft is very good. So that will certainly keep him in good stead. Here is Shepherd. He still hasn't been overtaken by Briggs, but Briggs is getting even closer. It's been 0.3 of a second pretty much since they got back going. It's down to 2.5 of a second now. And Briggs knows that he can still win this race. He's got time to do it. He's the fastest driver out on circuit, but he has to clear this car right away. And that's a good exit for the DPR machine. At the moment, the distance kind of increasing, but now it will start to decrease. It's down to 0.2 of a second the gap. It'll be down to 1.5 by the braking area. But the straight just isn't long enough. We missed this whole kind of infield section. I think he'd stand a good chance at overtaking to the penultimate corner. And I just wonder if Shepherd picking up a waft of slipstream from McMullen ahead is helping him out right now.
It'd definitely be helping him out. The other advantage that Shepherd's going to have too, the longer he can keep Briggs behind, the more he's going to get an idea of where he's going to see Briggs potentially try and put those moves together. So he's going to be able to start placing the car a little bit more in an awkward spot there to make it a little bit harder for Briggs. Briggs is going to have to come up with something very special here to get that car done. And the longer he stays behind right now, the harder it's going to be for him to get that move done. See at the front, James Scott's starting to extend a little bit of an advantage now out to 1.3 seconds over Marlon McMullen. The pace staying very consistent still. All of our top 5 or 8 cars at the moment still in the 129.
Oh, that's Briggs 3 potentially. That was a mistake from Shepherd. This is as good as Briggs is going to get. He's got to make this move right away into turn 2, round the outside, and he has surely got this move covered now. He still needs to be careful here. He's going onto the grass there, Shepherd. He might have a chance at retaliating down this back straight, but he should be alright, and that's a bit of wheel spin as well for Shepherd. That's only 0.2 of a second. Briggs might want to put his car into the middle of the circuit here just to cover off any opportunity of coming back, because he's had to work hard for this move, but he is ahead. He's up into 3rd place now as Briggs, and he can set his sights on Marlon McMullen.
Yeah, just a lock up there from Shepherd, and then they are fighting for sheep stations right through the Moss S's.
Good driving
Yeah,
from the
just-
pair of them. That could have been a bit over-aggressive potentially from Shepard, getting a bit desperate, but he's, I think he realised that Briggs is the faster driver. He's now got 1.4 seconds to catch up. There's a number of big packs out there on circuit. You can check out the gaps between all the drivers on circuit via the live timing link in the description below, provided by SDK Gaming. So click on that link and you can get yourself a web page, and that will display to you all the gaps between the drivers, their last lap time, their best lap time, their pit stop length, what lap they came into the pits. It's really useful stuff. So you've got an extra monitor or an iPad or any tablets or anything like that, certainly do click on the link and you can see the gaps between the drivers, because we can only concentrate on a handful of cars at any one point on circuit. That's some good info for you to access. Neil Pearson's just got past Steven Varga. By the way, we're currently watching Smith trying to get past Jaden Borg. Smith down 8 places from his start. And the Jaden Borg for Kota Simsport 094, very much under pressure. He's all right into the hairpin right now.
Yeah, just ahead of these guys, you've also got David Kidman and Greg Sharp not that far ahead. Getting into this little pack of 4, however, Tom Freer, who we saw have the earlier spin at half rotation for Pursuit Sim Racing, working his way back up the field. He's got Rob Harris to try and contend with and dispatch here. And Smith just ahead of these guys getting very racing here.
Freer regretted that one from the moment he missed his braking point and just had nowhere to go, and credit to him, he's slowing right down. Shame for Tom Freer, saying how good a qualifying it was by him earlier on, qualified up in 5th place and drops down to 40th.
Good heads up driving there from Freer to respect that he made a mistake, hand back the position and self-penalise himself.
Might get away without a penalty. Aaron Dodd, he's got Daniel Misdale 3.5 tenths of a second behind him. This train starts at Cal State. In fact, Geordie Sinney's been able to pull away from Stokes. Did Sinney pit under pace car? He did actually. Sinney pitted under pace car. On lap 19. Whereas Stokes came in on lap 16. That might be part of the reason why Sinney is able to pull away. He's driving very well, but also got 3 lap pressure tyres, albeit one of them was under the safety car. That is the difference. A little bit of a shame that the safety car came out, really, because it could have some drivers going deep into the race, maybe into the mid-20s even. But once the pace car came out, it was obvious to hit on lap 19 for anyone who hadn't pitted already. Just going to get
Briggs
deep now.
Yeah, Briggs has really started to close up on the back of McMullen. They work their way down into turn 1. They dropped a little bit off the back of James Scott. The gap now out to 1.8 seconds. But with Briggs dispensing a Shepard, he's started to really hone in on the back of McMullen. And these two are going to be in for a really solid battle now. Briggs 1 lap better tyre condition than from what we're seeing on McMullen's car at the moment. But the lap pace between both of them very, very close.
Remember, Briggs was down to 8th place, 9th place even at the start. Awful getaway for him. It could have been an easy race win for Adam Briggs, who, as far as I'm aware, has not won a race in this series. You guys, I think, have been involved for a bit longer than I. Has he won a race, Adam Briggs?
No, I don't believe so. God, and my memory's pretty bad, admittedly, but no, I don't believe he has. In the time that I've been a part of the championship, I haven't seen it, but as we say at the start, DPR coming on very, very well, and this is as good an opportunity as they're going to get, considering they're already second in the championship, to get up there and potentially jump up either second position or take that outright win. This is a really solid opportunity here for Briggs right now.
Yeah, I think we've seen them on the Briggs on a podium, but I'm not sure we've seen a win out of him. So definitely best chance here to go after McMullen and then go after James Scott if he can close that gap. With the times on the board, it does look like he is progressing there, and once he's around this Mustang in front of him, he's chasing that Commodore up at the road.
when he's had fresh air in this second stint, he has once again been 2 tenths of a second a lap faster than Scott. It's 2 seconds behind. We've got 10 laps to go after this one, which indicates that he's got to get past now McMullen if he's going to catch up to the race leader. And this is looking very good for him at the moment. This is closer than he ever got to Corey Shepherd. And McMullen's going to have to go defensive. It's down to 1/10 of a second. Here comes Briggs for second position, the position that he started this race in. McMullen will stay around the outside, but he almost lets him have it. And Briggs is back up into second place. 2.2 seconds to catch up to the leader. He's the fastest man on circuit. And this is a proper chase situation now. He's got 10 and a bit laps to get it done and claim his first race victory. And what a comeback this has been, even if he only gets second place. Considering how poor his start was, considering they went off the circuit on lap 1, this has still been an exceptional drive from him.
Yeah, barring those few little minor issues at start, he's really hasn't put a foot wrong here. The pace and balance in that car has been exceptional. You can already see that he's now started to gain that advantage over the McMullen right now, and he's got his sights firmly set ahead. Didn't lose too much time as they go over the line in getting that change done. It's actually still a bit quicker than what we saw from James Scott the last time by, so working very well for him. Brody Myers doing a stellar job recovering after his awkward pit stop, let's say, under the safety car where he misjudged that one. Just getting a move done down the inside of Matthew Deere. He's going to have to be careful not to get any contact here as you see him go around the outside. It's just a little touch between those two.
Yeah, you don't think anyone down the midfield is going to make it easy for Brady, but as you've seen with his massive pace advantage, he's got over half the field. He's making the moves stick when he can. Shows the nose, gets it done, accelerates up the hill, and now he just leads his pack. So he's on to the next target. Philip Woolley acquired.
Pretty wide there. That wouldn't be very smart. Well, the 116 there has come back, and mine's just a bit complacent there. You got it done, but right there, Deere just thinking, well, if you're not going to defend, I'll just go back down the inside of you. Now he makes a mistake, does Deere, and he does lose that position for good. Ross working with Myers right now to get through the pack. To be fair to Deere, he is fighting very hard, even though it's only a matter of time till he gets overtaken by these drivers. He is trying to keep them behind all that he can, and he's doing a good job acting with some of the best drivers in the series right now. And yeah, once again, keeping behind the 143, we will be getting increasingly frustrated in that position. Out in the lead, 0.11 seconds faster for Briggs on that last lap. Got the gap down to 1.88 now. But he needs more like 0.2 of a second a lap in order to catch up. We've got 9 more laps to go, including this one. Seems as though he makes up the gap in the second half of the lap. First half of the lap it stays pretty constant, and in the first sector, in fact, actually, yeah, to be fair, on this lap so far, Briggs has gained about a tenth and a half, which is strong for him. Just needs to make sure that he kind of keeps up that half a tenth per sector. Have 4 sectors around this lap, and there you can see he's just taking hundredths of a second out on each corner. It shows how evenly matched, shows how little these drivers are leaving on the table. But he's just got that tiny advantage, and it looks as though he might be able to take out another tenth and a half on this lap.
Yeah, it seems to be working really well for him, as you say, through that middle section of the lap. Just dropping a tenth through sector 3. There's not much in it there at all, but the car looking really, really solid. The platform's working quite nicely for him. He's already built up a really good advantage now over Marlon about at 1.3 seconds, second to third at the moment, and the gap still to our leader is still decreasing though. 1.6 seconds of last lap, 1.8 I believe as they cross the line. So the advantage definitely swinging in favour of Briggs. Big thing to keep an eye on though, with the pace that Scott's running, though, he'll definitely be looking after these tyres. So for Adam right now, it's the age-old thing. Catching is one thing, passing is another. Be interested to see what kind of a defence though James Scott's going to be able to mount to keep him behind.
Oh, contact with the 87 and Jamie Stovall. Beacock and another driver as well getting involved in that one, Thompson, I think. So it's into turn 2. I think they've lost it. No, it was contact. There you go. The 987 coming out of nowhere there, Stovall. There was a gap, to be fair. Wonder if the stewards will have to investigate that one.
Yeah, did hear a call to race control just to have a look at that one for Stovall here. Watch him go through. Just a little bit awkward there for Vcock. The door was definitely open there. Stovall not really much place to go. He'd already committed to the racing line there. And Shane Thompson, just an unwitting counterpart, just going in through the rear, and both of those two working their way through the dirt and back onto the circuit. A little bit further up, Andrew Dyson now, actually a little further back, sorry, Andrew Dyson on Ashley Ruskin for Reaper Sim Racing and DPR. Oh, he's got the rear all locked up.
I know we're in Japan, but there's no need to Tokyo drift it.
Oh, nice hit. Nice one. Terrible film, by the way. I'd just like to say it would be my least favourite film of all time.
Adam Briggs just closing this gap to James Scott. This is the battle which is definitely going to spice up as we get to the pointy end of this race. Lap 34 at the moment. Of 40, it's closing, and so is that gap, and it's going to be a spicy, spicy finish.
He's well on course to catch up at the moment. That last lap, he'd take up 3.5 tenths of a second. Briggs I haven't seen him miss an apex all race long. I've barely seen him spin up the tyres, to be fair. Because every lap right now, he's in the 30.1 or 30.2. It's Scott who's the inconsistent one. Scott in the 30.2 sometimes, but that last lap, a 30.47. And with the level that Adam Briggs is driving at the moment, you can't afford laps like that. And you can see how the gap has come down. The slight inconsistency from Scott. What is it this time? Scott does a 30.53, even slower, and Briggs another 30.16 that time now. He's going to catch him, and like Daniel said, catching is one thing, overtaking is another. But this would be, he does run wide a little bit, at least a few hundreds. This would be one of the most incredible race wins I've seen in this race. To come back from 8th place and overtake the championship leader, the driver who's won both races so far this season, the defending champion. That would absolutely wrap it off perfectly for Adam Briggs. Potentially a legendary race coming up for him, but it's in his hands right now.
Yeah, definitely. He's doing everything he needs to do just to continue eating away at that gap. See a little further back, Kenneth Ladder, a little bit of a lock-up as Brett Loxton tries to get down the inside. A little bit of contact between both of those cars as they work their way through. So a little awkward there between those two. Phil Worley on the back of Rob Bowden, a bit further down the order. Steve Varga just ahead of these guys down in the 15th spot as well. Probably a little bit further down than where either of these guys would have wanted to be. Worley, who had a fantastic qualifying, started 7th in tonight, down in 17th position. And a little bit of a night to forget for him, unfortunately, there.
Night to forget for many of our key players, with Brady Myers just behind, climbing through the field, only managing to get to 18th thus far. And those laps are quickly running out, so those tyres for Brady must have worn off a bit, and Jordan Ross just behind. Big gamble up front for them, and not much to pay for it.
Myers, by the way, 2 tenths faster than the race leader that last time out. Bending Myers looked faster than Scott in the first stint, didn't he? As we see the lead, 4 to go after this one, and he's caught. McMullen's coming with him as well, 1.5 seconds behind is McMullen. He'll pick up the pieces, and I've never seen McMullen win a race, although I believe he has. He won the championship a couple of seasons ago before I was involved in the championship. Is that right? McMullen won because he was running the car number 1, I think, last season.
Yeah, McMullen has picked up a couple of championships along the way in this series. I think prior to the event switching to another broadcaster earlier on, he just picked up the final championship there, and then worked his way through. So it hasn't fallen away too far from what we've seen. He's been very, very consistent, just trying to get back into that podium position. But right here, right now, Briggs and Scott going for it. Come across the line, still 3 to go, but that gap has dropped substantially, just under 0.3 of a second as they now work their way down to turn 1, or the first corner at Okayama.
The appropriately named first corner. Looking over Adam Briggs' left shoulder, you see a massive amount of effort goes into this tight, twisty circuit. They get a bit of a reprieve on the run down to the hairpin of sorts, but got to get turned in and then smooth that throttle right out as he's trying to get hung onto the back in that slipstream of James Scott. Will we see a dive down at the hairpin?
All his moves so far today have been pretty safe. To get into the lead, he may just have to throw a curveball here. But he's learning where Scott's struggling. It's pretty much all the way around the circuit that he's fast. I did say earlier on that he's maybe faster in the second half of the track, but I think it is just everywhere. He's just got a comfort around this circuit, Briggs. He's never won a race in this championship, remember? And dropped down to 8 at the start. Scott's got to be careful as well. He doesn't go for doesn't bug him into the second hairpin there as well. As we move on to lap 38 of 40. McMullen on that last lap was about a tenth and a half faster than these guys. I'll have to probably go side by side for a few corners in order for him to get involved. Is the gap any closer than it was on the last lap? It's another half a tenth faster for Briggs. And this is as close as he could possibly want. This is where it comes down to racecraft now. This is when it comes down to how precise you can be on your braking marks. Getting the power down as well, getting the power delivered. And that was a poor power delivery there for Scott. And it's put him under pressure. He takes a tight line, does Scott, into this one. He likes to trail brake it into the right-hander. Up the hill the drivers go. One of the most tricky traction areas on the circuit. But tell Adam Briggs that, because he absolutely nailed it. Scott's going to have to put his car into the middle of the circuit. He does go into the middle of the circuit. And Briggs will go the long way round. Defending into the hairpin, he slides the car into the corner, does Scott. And this is going to get McMullen involved as well. Once again offline, Hanks put his car into the middle of the circuit. But he survives that time. And that just shows how tricky it's going to be for Briggs to overtake. The outside line into the hairpin. Not easy by any means. And that was pretty much as close as he could have hoped to get. He's almost going to need a mistake here from Scott in order to win this race. Scott opens the line again. Does Briggs go for it? No, he doesn't. Scott very confident that Briggs isn't going to go for it, because that was absolutely gaping on that occasion. Quarter of a second, 2 laps to go.
I think Adams really set himself up for a good run here. If you watch the way the Altus car is exiting these corners, a lot of wiggle in the rear there, a lot of power oversteer getting it out of these corners. Briggs' DPR machine looks very stable right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bit of a move here in the next couple of corners. He's really brought that car up.
Oh, here he goes. He's down the inside. Is there going to be contact? Oh, not quite. Scott was slow out of turn 1, and he put his car on the inside of the circuit. There was no way for Briggs to get ahead, and that's just slowed up Briggs a little bit. It's opened up the gap by about a tenth of a second. He's a tenth further back than he was on the last lap. But we know how strong he is coming out of this corner. And once again, Scott, despite having 1 lap pressure tyres, he's struggling to get the power delivered. It's a tenth and a half on the back straight. Briggs goes down the inside. There's barely a car's width, but he's going to go for it regardless. He's not deep enough on the brakes though, and Scott covers it off again. McMullen right with these drivers. I doubt he'll be able to make much of an impression on Briggs, but he's right there to pick up any pieces that fall his way. Lap and a half to go, and Briggs has got to get really inventive. That was once again a good opportunity for him, but he just wasn't late enough on the brakes. Scott, to be fair, defending extremely well at the moment. Does Briggs go for it into the second hairpin this time? Again, he has a look, but it's not there for him. 3.5 tenths of a second. It's maybe a little bit larger the gap than it was on the last lap. And they've just got to make sure that they hit their marks. It's getting larger again, actually, 4 tenths of a second, but better exit for Briggs onto the pit straight to start lap 40. We're into the last couple of kilometres of this 150 kilometre race. Season 9, Round 3 of the AOSC Super Series. Briggs again goes for it, down the inside into turn 2, but Scott takes the normal racing line, and it wasn't quite there for Briggs, but it's a good exit for him. Quarter of a second. And he's going to have his one last opportunity into the hairpin on this lap. You know that he has to go for it. He will surely go for a lunge if it's right there for him. He gets the power down. It's a brilliant drive for Briggs. Spinning up the wheels. Oh, he gets a little bit of a slide there. To the inside goes Scott. Covers the line right to the inside. Briggs can't go for the dummy. There's almost contact between the two of them. Into the braking area. Scott sliding in deep. Briggs round the outside. Can he get the power delivered and get the inside for the next corner? He can't. And Scott, a compromise once again. Can Briggs go for it this time? Yes, he does. But again, he's not quite confident enough on the Briggs. And here comes McMullen as well. He might try to pick up second place here. There's surely no opportunity for Briggs to get past from here unless he goes for the dive into the second hairpin. He's further back than he was on previous laps. James Scott, two-time race winner already this season. He's going to make it 3 races. He's going to take the first 150-kilometer race as well. James Scott, the Logitech G Outers Esports, he holds on at Okayama. He wins round 3 of the championship. And Adam Briggs pushing him right to the limit, but just could not get the advantage in the end. But a classic battle between the two, and then Marlon McMullen finishing in a tight third. That was one of the best battles of that we're going to see all season. Daniel, right there, you've got a feel for Adam Briggs. He had the pace on the championship leader, but he just couldn't make it stick. Perfect driving from James Scott.
Yeah, really unfortunate there for Briggs. I thought he'd come up with a few opportunities there to get those moves done, just not quite able to sell the dummy that he needed to James Scott. He had a fantastic run there in that final opportunity to get it through into the hairpin. Ran Scott very, very wide, and when he come back across, it just allowed James to get back in and do enough to hold that spot. But for both of those two, fantastic drive. Marlon McMullen, take your hat off to him as well. He got himself back up into it when we thought he might have fallen away after Briggs got through, and nearly got himself there in for an opportunity at second position.
And if there was any question about James Scott's mentality, no, I think that one certainly puts that to rest. I mean, he's a Joe who pretty much has no weaknesses. He's strong in qualifying. Awesome race start today. He had good pace, and then that defensive drive. No one else could keep Briggs behind them for more than a couple of laps, and yet Scott managed to do it in those final stages.
Yeah, no, it was a good drive from James Scott, and he's got the number 1 on the door, reflecting that he is the champion because he has been able to successfully run a championship tilt, and he knows where to put the car to make that happen. But massive commendation to Adam Briggs tonight for that effort. That is definitely a way to stand up and be noticed in this championship, and he's definitely on fine form so far.
Yeah, second place in the championship. Briggs will move up to, or maybe stay. Maybe already been second place before this round. But no, great drive from him right there. And we can go through the final results, I believe, for this round 3 of the championship, the first 150-kilometer race of the season. And it is James Scott who wins out for Logitech G Outers Esports, 0.3 of a second ahead of Adam Briggs in second place. Marlon McMullen in third. Corey Shepherd finishes in fourth, only 2 seconds off the lead. Kenneth, that's a great drive from Kenneth. Didn't talk about him a whole lot, but he was consistently in the top 6 for the entire event. And finishes in fifth. Good drive as well for Brett Loxton for Zuba Racing in sixth place. Good to see that team up there. Then was Johnny Sinney, Carl Stokes, Reese Keane, and Jacob Knight rounding out the top 10. Then was Aaron Dodd, Daniel Misdale, Jamie McKnight, Neil Pearson, Stephen Varga, Brady Myers, who really should have finished in second place, but for some reason didn't come into the pits under the safety car. Then it was Jordan Ross, pole sitter. Really just, awful start for the Synergy Sim Racing driver. Then it was Philip Worley, Rob Bowden, Marty Hansen, Matthew Deere, Blake Delaney, Jamie Stovall, Jamie Dyke, Clint Jane Smith, David Kimmond, Jaden Borg, Wayne Taylor, Sean Chappell, Ashley Ruskin, Cameron Beacock, Chris Barnes, Rob Harris, Michael Whiting, Shay Thompson, Greg Sharp, Paul Warwick, Paul Lee, Andrew Dyson, Tom Freer, Stacey Walker, Cameron James, and Josh Morgan. Also, Sean Lindsay actually in 44th place was all your drivers. Also, Nick also as well got to do a few laps in the pace car. I'm sure he had a terrific time driving from the Mercedes GT3 car. So we're going to have a chat with all of our top three. The man that we're going to have to introduce first, though, undoubtedly, is going to be James Scott, who joins us in the commentary box. Third race victory of the season for James, but that looked by far the toughest. Adam was on fire today. That was incredible how much speed he had. He romped up C, but he held strong in those closing stages.
Yeah, that one was very tough. I was very close to not racing tonight. I've been very sick the last couple of days, so I was didn't have much practice, and I didn't really think I was going to race, to be honest. But I decided to give it a shot in practice, and luckily enough, the heavens sort of opened up in the first lap, with Jordan getting a bad start and Adam going off the road, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how much work did you do for that qualifying setup? I mean, because it's rare to see you so far down. Do you think that was just because of your lack of laps around this circuit, or do you think it was qualifying specific?
I was still sort of not quite with it, to be honest, after a lot of medication to try and get myself better. And I still wasn't quite very good. And I'll be going to bed after this and probably not leaving for the next 2 days. But yeah, I did do a little bit of practice early in the week before I come down with a flu. But yeah, the last 2 days I haven't really been on at all.
For the championship now, you must feel almost invincible. I mean, 3 wins out of 3, even compared to last season. You may have got the front 3 last season, but this is turning out fantastic for you. You've got a win in every race format so far.
Yeah, obviously it's going well so far. Obviously it's only early days, so it's only round 3, I think it is. So there's still a long way to go, and obviously it only takes a few bad results to see your championship slip away. So just need to keep the consistency up, and we'll see where we end up at the end of the year.
Definitely. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, James. Hopefully you get better soon. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Obviously all the guys at Altus Esports. Been a great bunch of guys to work with, and obviously our great sponsors, Logitech G, Astro Gaming, Motion Simulation, Cube Controls, and obviously you guys for putting on a great show, and all the AOSC admin.
Awesome. Thanks for chatting with us, James, and hopefully see you back very soon.
Thanks, guys.
That was James Scott for Logitech G Altus Esports, your race winner for round 3 of the championship. Daniel, I think we are next going to have a chat with our runner-up today, Adam Briggs.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Congratulations. Good result and recovery drive to come home second tonight. Let's quickly rewind 40 laps. Let's have a quick chat just about the start, because the car got away quite well. You found yourself up in the lead. A little unfortunate braking area there down into towards the mid portion of the lap. Saw you run wide. Started a big recovery drive. Was it just a small lockup that unsettled the front of the car, or was something a little bit off to begin with?
Yeah, I think if I did that lock up on lap 3, it would have been fine. It's just lap 1, cold tyres. I also put a bit of lock into it. You have that temptation to, I'm running wide, put a bit of lock in. It obviously just made it worse. So no one to blame but myself. But what I resolved to do thereafter was to do the best I could. So I think I couldn't have done any better.
Well, yeah, walk us through. Like you came out after the pit stop. You found yourself down in, it was 4th position. You had Corey Shepherd in front of you. Had Marlon McMullen there. You managed to dispense of both those two, and then from up to James Scott, who towards the 5 to 6 laps out was 1.8 seconds up the road. You brought it down to absolutely nothing, and looked like the car setup tonight worked exceptionally well for yourself and the team.
Yeah, spent a fair bit of time. I mean, it's a known setup. It's something that we've used a few times now. But I just spent most of the practice session earlier tonight just tailoring some of the elements of the setup to some of the long sweeping corners that require drive, and that must have really looked after the rear as well. So, and that was the basis of catching Scott. James Scott was obviously was a bit traction limited in the rear end, so I was able to sort of make up a 10th almost every time through turn 3. So that was nice. Yeah.
And then we saw you always have that big lunge down into the first hairpin on the final lap there. Just a little bit of contact between both of you by the looks there, and unfortunately not able to get it done. How have you found, obviously, we've seen DPR evolve over the last season. You guys have really stepped up the game. Coming to a circuit like Okayama, not something we traditionally see on the Supercars calendar. How did you find adapting to that from the sort of traditional circuits that we come to?
Actually, I actually thought it was a fantastic circuit for this. Actually, it's super smooth. It's got a lot of medium to slow speed corners. It reminds me a lot of Eastern Creek. So yeah, I think it's actually, and it's got a really smooth surface, which is fantastic for data logging and stuff like that. So you can really pull apart a lot of information there really quickly without too much interference from massive curbs or weird bumps or anything like that. So yeah, I think it was actually a fantastic circuit, and I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. And you've really cemented yourself now a really solid second position in the championship. We know you came in second to the start of this race, and again, walk out of here still second in the points, closing down the gap to James Scott out the front. But from all of us here, mate, first off, congratulations. And before we let you go and enjoy the victory, the podium celebrations, is there someone you'd like to, or anyone you'd like to give a shout out and thanks to?
Yeah, firstly, Apex TV, you put on a fantastic broadcast. All the series admins at AOSC, they without this, we don't go racing on a Friday, and we don't have this amazing product to watch and race. And thirdly, I'd like to really support our sponsors. So that's simrigs.com. They've come on board recently, and they have fantastic value products. So go check out their website. There's also Southwell Lifts and Hoists, Ben Max Mechanical, and also BetSmart Racing Services. Those guys really help us out. And yeah, once again, thank you very much for simrigs.com.
Fantastic, mate. Well, again, congratulations on the second position tonight, cementing second position currently in the championship, and we'll look forward to catching up with you again at the next event.
Thank you.
So that was our second place finisher, Adam Briggs there for DPR Racing. And finally, we're going to have a chat with third place man. He finished only about a second off the race win, Marlon McMullen, and he is standing by with Noy.
G'day, Marlon, and what a night. Starting 8th, and you found yourself 3rd. Just give us a bit of a rundown from your perspective. How was that open lap and that opening stanza?
Oh man, that first lap, I knew those tyres were going to feel like jelly, and man, there were cars just going left, right, and centre, and I was just trying to hang on, and I think I went up to 4th at the end of the first lap, and I'm like, whoa, I don't know what's happened here, so I don't want to be one of them. And thankfully everything sort of warmed up, and I was able to really have a really great race, and to come home on the podium. This is my first podium, and I don't even know how long, like 6 months, so I'm really happy.
But it's a thoroughly deserved podium. You were running second there for that good part of that middle stint, and it was only when Briggs got past you that you really, we sort of lost track, but you were still there, and you were fighting towards the end. You really came at them towards the end when they were battling, and you would have thrown it up the inside, I'm sure, if the opportunity presented itself.
Yeah, Adam, I tell you what, he's really flying lately. I took note of his pace in the first stint, so I'm like, he's going to cause me a bit of grief come sort of near towards the end of the race. And sure enough, here he comes. So I did my best to hang on to the back of James, but he sort of hung on really well with the pressure. I know he's not feeling really well, but he did really, really well to hang on with the pressure and everything he's got going on at the moment. And I did my best trying to hang on to him, but once Adam sort of was coming, I'm like, look, I'm going to not fight too hard. I don't want to do anything silly, and we'll see if he can try and catch James. And man, that was a great battle with them too. And I was trying to get back onto the back of the little train, and I did everything I could, but hey, I'm happy to come home on the podium. So well done to those two.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal drive from our perspective. Just want your thoughts on Okayama. It's not traditionally a track we race in the V8s, but God, it put on some good racing, didn't it?
I love it. I've always loved it over the years. I mean, I've driven the series probably since 2013. It's a shame we don't do it more. It's a bit of a goat track, a bit of a go-kart sort of track, but this season it was really, really hard to get the car sort of up to the temp with the tyres. When I came out of my pit stop before the safety car, I nearly crashed like 3 or 4 times just on that outlap. It just felt like you were driving on McDonald's trays or something. There was just no grip, so it was really, really scary. But yeah, once the tyres were really gripped up, it was a great track to race on, and you can see the battles are really tight, and that's what we want to see. So real fun.
Absolutely. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, all the boys at Premier Racing Team. Corey did a really great job tonight. We communicated really well. Race Centre for sponsoring me, Western Mazda, and you guys for putting on the broadcast, and the AOSC series for putting on a really great race. So I can't wait to go and watch this one back.
Excellent work, Marlon. Have yourself a great night, and well done on the 3rd place.
Thank you, guys. Look after yourselves.
Marlon McMullen there, your 3rd place finisher tonight. Congratulations to all the podium sitters. We have a break week next week. No AOSC. It's a shame. But in 2 weeks' time, Daniel, we head to Monza, which will be a draft fest, really. The draft effect isn't massively powerful in this car, as Scott Newton hopefully puts up the cans. 14th of August will be next round of the championship, but that could potentially be a bit of an unpredictable one. The pace should be pretty even amongst the drivers. There's not a whole lot of corners to master around that circuit, and if today was unpredictable, I think Monza will be even more so.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for Monza itself, it is somewhat technically easy when you look at it, a lot of straights, and that the real challenging part is going to be those heavy braking zones, and for all the drivers to set the car up with enough rebound in the front to not lock a brake and allow it to get in and turn properly. So a lot of the guys now will have 2 weeks off. They can go and test these cars, develop a really good setup, and come back and put on another fantastic show, similar to what we've seen tonight. I'm sure we're going to see the same thing again come Monza.
Absolutely, really looking forward to that round of the championship. Before we close out, a big thanks to all the sponsors for the championship, for helping the series as much as they do. Of course, Okayama providing height safety rigging equipment, and Jinx Shifters making premium shifters for A/B adjustment, brake bias adjustments. Race Circuit Arts Australia, the trophy suppliers for this season, making high quality CNC race circuits, which you can hang on your wall there. Absolutely awesome those. 6th Gear Imagery, who will be doing the action shots. Certainly do look at them on the AOSC Facebook page. They're really well done, so I recommend liking the AOSC Facebook page, and you'll be able to see them on that. Wolf Graphics, making Aussie-made high-quality stickers, and also Western Mazda, Too Easy Finance, and Paramatsu Isuzu Ute as well. Sydney car dealers run by Jamie McKnight. Thanks to all of those for offering their support for the championship. We'll be back with you then in a couple of weeks' time for the AOSC Super Series. In the meantime, do you like this video? We mega appreciate it. Also, subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network. There's loads of other action coming up, whether you're American, Australian, European, stuff all the time during the day. And also, please do check out Apex Racing TV as well, our YouTube channel, because once again, we do loads of other stuff on that as well. About 15 broadcasts a week, once again, in all the different time zones. So certainly do check that out, and do check out our social media as well on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But for now, from me, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Daniel Leap, from Matthew Norris, and from Scott Newton, we will say goodbye, and we'll see you back in 2 weeks' time at Monza for round 4 of the AOSC Super Series. See you then.